You're listening to TNCRadio.live. Remember to tune into the Truckers Network radio show with Shelley Johnson, weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome in on a Wednesday night, TNC Radio.live. This is Taillights with Larry and Angie Baum.
Good evening, everybody. This is Angie. Larry, unfortunately, is driving tonight, so it's just going to be me. But tonight, we've got a really good guest. He's actually been on our show a couple times. We've got our good friend, Matt. He is one of the co-founders of the NADRA. And so tonight, we thought we'd talk with Matt and just kind of get to know him a little bit. So, Matt, I know that you've been a truck driver for 22 plus years. How did you even decide to get into the trucking industry?
Well, all honesty, my grandfather on my father's side started driving a truck way back when. My father was a cattle hauler. My stepfather was a truck driver over in Vietnam. Came back here, drove truck. So I was around trucks a lot. My father and his father were both in the fire department, so even if I wasn't around a semi-tractor trailer, I was around a fire engine. Big trucks, it just came natural. I started driving tractors back on the farm by the age of 7 or 8. It was, but for me, it was just natural. I took to it like a pig in mud. Once I got old enough, started realizing I never really liked being in one place at one time for any amount of time. And, well, the next best thing was getting up into one of these big semis and get up and down the road. And that's what I did.
Well, and it's true. I was going to say, when you talk, and you actually talk to truckers who've been out here for a while, I think the majority of the truckers come from either the military field because that's what they drove in the military, or that's what they worked on, or they were a farmer. And so they were, driving a semi-truck at a young age. So when you had said that you were a volunteer fireman and you used to be a farmer, I was like, well, that makes complete sense.
Well, it was, I kind of followed in my father's footsteps. My grandfather as well. My grandfather was a 65-year volunteer fireman. My father was a 35-year. I believe he's a life member now. My grandfather has passed away since. I did 10 years. It takes a toll on a person's soul. It takes a toll on a person's mind. Hats off to all the military and fire personnel, EMS that have to deal with that stuff. Doing it firsthand, it takes a toll on you. But it was, for me, it was following in the family pattern. I finally got into the truck, and once you're in a semi truck, there's really no time for volunteer firefighting anymore. So trucking's been my full-time pastime ever since.
Well, and I know that you're married, and we've talked a lot about this, especially being a solo truck driver out there, and you've got a family at home. That's a hard situation to deal with. Tell us a little bit about your family.
My wife's name is Sheila. I have myself, before we came together, I have 3 grown adult children, all in their 20s. Amazing young men and women. Very hard work ethics. They grew up with a really good upraising. Their mother was amazing. And then, of course, I now have my 2 stepchildren, which are really my stepchildren. I still love them, and just as much as my own children. So it's a lot of fun getting to know them and watching them grow up. I didn't think that opportunity was going to come again, but to see it and be a part of it, it's amazing. But it's hard when you're on the road, and every truck driver, I don't care, man or woman out here, will understand when I say it really hurts sometimes, knowing that they're at a school play or a ball game or there's something going on that you just can't be there for. You're too far away. You can't get back fast enough. And you realize that, the food on the table and the roof over their head is a lot more important than, that one thing. Until you get later down the road and you realize, hindsight, maybe it could have been you know, a steak dinner could have cut back to a chicken dinner, and you could have made that one thing that was important to them.
It's so hard trying to find that perfect balance, especially when you're a truck driver.
Well, a lot of us out here, we have a gypsy mind. Every one of us that's a truck driver, I believe you've got to have a gypsy mind, and you got to have a gypsy heart to you. You're not designated to be in one place very long. That's why you see a lot of people that are 2 days at a truck stop. They're getting itchy. They've got to be moving. And I believe that's all of us out here in one fashion or another. So, and you're right. That line is a very hard line to find. I know guys that went from over the road to local driving. It's driving them nuts just to have that family time. And the sacrifice is amazing that you make, but at the same time, you're kind of miserable doing it. So it's a everyday fight for every truck driver out here, whether it be male or female, to go through on a daily basis.
I know we were talking a couple months ago, right before the holidays, it seems to be the hardest because, I know you were able to be home and I was able to be home, but there were so many of our brothers and sisters that weren't able, and it's just a tough time of year. So, but I'm glad that you were home and got to see your family.
Well, the home time, my home time was based more on the fact that, there was an accident back in early January, November. A lot of people that know me know what happened there. Made a left at a light, got T-boned by a four-wheeler who ran a red light, destroyed the trailer. The good thing is it put me down for 4 or 5 weeks to help build the NADRA. At the same token, we took a heck of a financial loss. That's kind of the reason why I was home for Christmas. But, it's easy to help the folks out there. You open up your door. If you're a truck driver and you're home on the holidays, open up your door. It doesn't take much to put the offer out there. Make a big dinner. Who shows up, shows up. Who doesn't. Thanksgiving, we did it. We were fortunate enough to have a couple of our fellow truck drivers in NADRA that were on the road come and have a nice dinner with us. We have a veteran across the street that lives by himself that we invited in for Thanksgiving. Just open your door. These are our brothers and sisters. A little bit of kindness goes a long, long way.
I think that's why, just because you have a very kind heart. You wear your heart on your sleeve. You try to do for others, which we don't, it used to be that way in the trucking community, but sadly, I think a lot of truckers have kind of gotten away from that. And I think a lot of it probably is electronics and our phones, and, we're not very personable anymore. But that's one of the things that I think Larry and I love the most about you is that, you do try to help others whenever you can.
Well, I've got a grandmother who sits above us now. That told me that you got to leave the world better than the way you were born into it. At least try. And with all the negativity in the world and the things that we're attacked on a daily basis, not just our trucking community, but our families, our homes, the different generational gaps, the technology, it makes it very difficult to stay positive, stay upbeat, to be able to help individuals and actually care. And, my goal is to stay positive, keep pushing the unity, keep helping folks. If one person gets contagious with that, then I've made a difference in the world, even a small one. My hope is a lot more catch that exact same thing, because a lot more is going to make a bigger difference, not just for my family, but for everybody's family.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to get ready to take a quick break, but I thought it's a good time for you to share, just because I got a chuckle out of it. Can you tell everybody your funniest over-the-road story? I was laughing so hard when I read that.
Well, this goes back, I think it was only about 5 years into truck driving. And I was cruising up through West Virginia, which, some of those folks up there are just bat crazy sometimes. But I happened to look down, early afternoon, and I'm a people watcher. I happened to look down, and there was a young lady cruising, just 65 miles an hour, no big rush, with one leg on the dash, a razor in her hand, and I watched her reach down, dip that razor, and shave her leg. And she actually stayed alongside of me long enough to drop one leg, switch hands, and shave the other one while she was driving through the interstate. And I'm going, holy man. And I'll tell you, nobody's topped her since.
Oh, I was dying because I was like, I remember before I was a trucker, and I was always rushing to work because I had to drive to St. Louis. And I can remember there was times when I was putting my makeup on, but I'm like shaving my legs. I've never thought of doing that one.
Yeah, nothing's ever beat it. I've seen a lot of crazy things, but nobody's ever beat that young lady shaving her legs while driving 65 miles an hour.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more with Matt, and we're going to talk to him and find out how he decided, along with Jason and Charles, to form the NADRA. So just sit back and be sure to join us. We'll be back in just a few minutes. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums.
This blog is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Team driving with your spouse. Is it for you? Trucking's an exciting career with many opportunities. Although there are many benefits to being a truck driver, such as freedom on the open road and seeing new places, there's still negative sides like loneliness and boredom. Truck driving is also difficult for your marriage. Being away from your spouse for days or weeks at a time makes it challenging to have a happy and healthy marriage. Thankfully, truck drivers have the option to team drive with their spouse. Forming a husband and wife trucking team can be a great opportunity to spend time together and travel the United States while making good money. Now, like any other job, driving with your spouse has pros and cons. Stay with me to find out if team driving with your spouse is right for you. Now, the pros of team driving with your spouse. Faster delivery. Due to the FMCSA's hours of service regulations, truck drivers can only drive up to 11 hours a day. Any driving after 11 hours will result in a penalty and a bad safety score. Truckers on average will drive up to 55-60 miles an hour. After their 11-hour shift, that adds up to a little over 600 miles a day. When you drive with your spouse, you can drive more miles. While you're finishing your 11-hour shift, your spouse can be resting and getting ready for their shift. This allows drivers to complete more miles a day, which in return leads to a faster delivery. You won't feel lonely. Driving alone can lead to developing mental health issues later on in your trucking career. Studies show that depression and anxiety are some of the most common mental health issues in drivers today. Team driving with your spouse eliminates feeling lonely on the road. Having your spouse with you on the road gives you someone to talk to and enjoy your daily activities with. Make more money. A single truck driver makes less money per mile than one whose team drives. Why is that? Well, with two drivers, you're completing more miles each day, and therefore you reach your destination much quicker. Cons of team driving with your spouse. Difficulty getting along. They say that distance makes the heart grow fonder, and that's true. It can be difficult to get along with your spouse when you're in a small space for weeks at a time. You may find yourself wanting alone time to pursue your hobbies and interests. When you decide to team drive, you give up the possibility of any alone time in your truck. Lack of sleep. To make team driving work, your spouse will have to rest while you complete your shift of driving. Sleeping in a truck cab, especially if your spouse is noisy, can be difficult. As a truck driver, it's essential to have a good night's rest before hitting the road. Getting the right amount of sleep is not only good for your overall health, but it also makes you more alert and cautious when driving. Harder to find trucking insurance. If you decide that team driving's for you and your spouse, you might have trouble finding a commercial truck insurance company that'll write your insurance. When you team drive, your truck never stops. Therefore, the truck is at risk for higher exposure to accidents. Your truck's also more liable to having maintenance issues, which can result in getting violations. Conclusion? Driving with your spouse has many pros and cons. Our advice to you is to take a look at the pros and cons and determine if this is the right career path for you and your spouse. Trucking with your spouse can lead to many great memories. This blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. TMAF.net.
Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, is boosting the image of the industry by telling the story of trucking, and your story can be part of it. Upload a photo, tell us what you love about trucking, or send us a story about a good deed or charitable act in trucking. Be sure to follow us on social media and contact us through truckingmovesamerica.com. That's truckingmovesamerica.com.
It's Truckers Life Radio from TFC Global with your host, Ron Frazier. Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Here we're helping drivers as they travel life's highway. I love that. The spiritual side, drivers face a lot out on the road. Truckers Life Radio digs in on the spiritual and moral questions that drivers face on a daily basis. You don't want to miss it. Every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back to Taillights with the Baums. I am Angie, and I am here with my good friend Matt. And Matt, we were talking a little bit before the break, and for people maybe listening that aren't familiar, you are one of the founders of the NADRA. And so I was going to let you talk a little bit about it and kind of explain to everybody what it is and how it was formed, how you guys decided that there was a need for this.
Okay, NADRA was actually formed and over, actually it was a dispute between me and Jason Bend on a TikTok. Jason's probably listening in and shaking his head right now because he's heard this story so many times. But Jason and I had a small dispute over something, a TikTok that he made, and not so much because of the comment I made, because I really didn't write 15 comments to follow through. I left a comment, and he had talked about unionizing trucking, and he said that, it was like battery acid in his mouth, and I left a simple message that says, no, the heck with unions. And he come back, and, we finally made it, okay, we got to talk. And we had a phone conversation, and we realized that him and I saw a lot eye to eye. We spoke a lot for about a week and a half, before Charles was even brought into the picture. We started getting an idea, we talked about OIDA, we talked about the different associations, we talked about ATA, FMCSA, DOT, and we started realizing that, we've got a lot of complaints and we're complaining a lot, so why not do something about it? Why not step to the plate? So many have, and we knew that they did, but there was things that they could have done better. Not that what they did was wrong, but they're, improper planning or didn't take enough time, or we thought highly of these people that have stepped up, but we didn't see the planning involved. We didn't see the unity. We didn't see the positivity. We saw a lot of hate. We saw a lot of anger. We saw a lot of misdirections. So we decided, okay, well, we're going to build our own association.
Yeah.
And what had happened is Charles happened to see TikToks that Jason and I were producing, basically stating we need something new. And Charles got involved. Well, when Charles got involved, Charles was already part of a group in Michigan. He was their president. And when he initially started, he said, hey, listen, he said, I love your passion. I love your ideas. How about you guys come up here and work with me, and we'll kind of revamp everything and get this ball rolling a little faster. We already have kind of the setup and the whole 9 yards. And Jason and I, jumped right on board. Oh, absolutely. This sounds like a great opportunity to really move forward with this idea. And, Charles spoke to the person that was involved with him up there, and, and not a bad thing, but they come to realize that, what Jason and I were bringing to the table was a little more than what they wanted. But Charles was seeing the passion and the fire behind it and the determination to move this forward. So Charles actually decided, to leave the position that he was in, which was a very, very good position for Charles, and come in and join Jason and I. And the big thing was that Charles wanted to see a difference made. He was tired of fighting for decades and not seeing anything get accomplished. And he knew, he believed, not that he knew it, but he believed with all his heart that Jason and I and what we were putting together and how we were putting it together was going to be something far different than anything that's been built. The reason being is we looked at OIDA and we looked at ATA and we looked at the different associations, not that it's a bad thing, the way they operate, but we decided to change it up. We wanted an association that was different. A lot of associations run off a pyramid style. There's somebody at the top and a bunch of people that fill in from the middle all the way down to the bottom. We wanted to create it so that there were equal seats around a round table, so to speak, to take that pyramid and turn it into a round table where everybody was face to face and ideas were shared equally, where we can advance the association in a way where it was meeting a lot more of the truckers' needs, not just one at a time, but several at a time. So we started moving forward, and the council was built, and now we've had many that have stepped away, personal, family reasons, financial reasons. We've had a few that have newly stepped in, and we're continually pushing forward with a new project. And the reason being is we believe that this association has to be founded, it has to be run in a different manner. It has to be run on positivity and unity as its core. We can't use negative to attack. We can't use negative to influence. It has to be positivity and unity. The 10,000 toy trucks to DC, a lot of people have heckled the idea, but the idea was a unity project. It was to bring people together, and we did it. The NADRA brought Mexico, United States, and Canada together because we know that packages were shipped from all three of these nations to the front step of DOT. We brought unity. We brought unity and positivity together.
Absolutely. And I know, I was just going to, kind of comment because, Larry and I are both part of the NADRA also. And I know there's been a lot of slack on TikTok about, that was, but the way I look at it is, like you said, it was a unity project. It was a way for us all to work together for a common good. And in the bottom, the end of it is that a bunch of children in Washington, D.C. who may not have had quite as nice of a Christmas were able to get some toys. And, we helped the Toys for Tots campaign. So I think it was an awesome decision. And we know it was a huge success.
Well, what we need to do is keep concentrating on unity and positivity. We have a thing going right now. It's called the Call Center Coalition. A lot of people, we are asking everybody to call into the DC hotline. You can find that information on our website at NADRA2022.com. You can find us on Facebook. The information is there for you to be able to do this. Over the next couple of days, call and speak to your representative, speak to the transportation department or the transportation aide of that representative, and let them know that we want HR 2187, which is a 9-page bill for truck parking, or a very similar bill written very similar with no added junk, where it's strictly used for truck parking to help build it up out here. That a lot of people don't understand. That's not just expressing your voice, but you're building a unity. By you calling in and the other 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 truck drivers that are calling into this coalition and speaking to your representative, you're letting them know that we're standing together on this. Unity is strength. Strength is how we're going to get things done. That is the core of NADRA. Everybody thinks that these little projects are foolish, waste of time. But if it brings two truck drivers together that have never spoken, it accomplished what it was supposed to do. If three truck drivers are now talking about, they called into the call center and they sent toy trucks. Now you've got three truck drivers talking that have never spoken to before. Unity is the goal. We build up the unity first, And then we go on, we take on the bigger issues once we have the backing. And the backing is built on the unity. We don't need a union to do this. We can do this just with the men and women that are out here. It's just the mindset. It's put away the differences to benefit not just yourself, but every truck driver out here.
Absolutely. We're going to take another break, but before we go to take a break, I do want to let everybody know that you can download the TNCradio.live app. You can find this on your Google Play Store or your App Store. If you download the TNC, picture of the Capitol button, and that puts you into just one button for you to call your representative so that you can make a difference with this as well. We're going to take just a quick break, and we'll be back with Matt talking more about the Call Center Coalition. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums.
Be sure to listen to Building Strong Minds with Dr. Chris, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right here on tncradio.live.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. In part one of this video, I told you the very endearing story of the splinter in the middle toe of my right foot and how it was successfully removed. And to me, that's an excellent analogy for post-traumatic stress disorder. What do I mean by that? Well, the very same system that contains the toe also contains the mind. And our system doesn't like intruders like a splinter or like a trauma. Those things need to be removed. But very often we don't remove them right away. After a trauma, instead of talking about it and dealing with it, we do our very best to bury it. In fact, one of the major symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder is avoidance. We do our best to not talk about it, not think about it, and do whatever we can to suppress the trauma. So what happens? With the toe, there was all this protective skin. Don't go near it because I'm going to protect it. And the mind does the same thing. Let's not go anywhere near it. You know, Vietnam veterans would say things to me like, I was in Vietnam and we don't talk about it. And what that does is keep the splinter embedded, continuing to give it power over the system. So what do we need to do? The splinter always needs to be removed. The trauma always needs to be dealt with. And that is to remember it, to feel it, to express it, and finally to release it. In my book, Keep Pain in the Past, I explain how we can deal with old, painful traumas and finally put them away for the first time and get on with our lives. Just like removing the splinter from my toe.
I'm Shelley Johnson with Kathy Tuccaro. You can hear us Tuesdays on tncradio.live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Women Road Warriors. And don't miss Steve Summers' Overnight Drive right here on tncradio.live. Weeknights, midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
stiction.
Found throughout the oil system, stiction is the sticky friction that negatively impacts your engine's ability to function at an optimal level. The molecular structure of oil is a hydrocarbon. The engine's extreme heat, tight tolerances, and high pressure cause the oil to break down and release hydrogen, leaving behind varnish, a carbon-based deposit. The varnish clings to the engine's moving parts, creating drag on the turbocharger, oil pump, and pistons. Since symptoms of stiction include a rough idle and the loss of fuel economy and performance. Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator delivers a 98% clean rating in third-party scrub tests. Its synthetic cleaner plus nano lubricant contains no harmful solvents and is formulated to be left in the engine to safely dissolve stiction for thousands of miles. It works as you drive.
Stiction Eliminator is available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Welcome back. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums. I am your host, Angie. And I was sitting here talking with my good friend, Matt. Before I forget, I just want to mention coming up next is going to be Clutch Time Sports with Anderson and Banker. So if you're a big sports fan, I seriously recommend that you stay tuned and listen. These guys are great, and they're coming up right after my show. Matt, we were talking a little bit before the break about the Call Center Coalition. Can you explain to everybody exactly what that means? Because I know some people don't. I mean, the biggest thing I think truckers are facing right now is that there's not enough safe parking out here for truckers. I mean, there's over 3 million truckers, not enough parking spots. So when you're asking people to call into the Call Center Coalition, can you explain a little bit about why we're asking them to call in?
Okay, the Call Center Coalition is based around a trucker's voice, which really isn't being heard. What we want you to do is call the call center for DC. It's very simple. You'll find the phone number on tncradio.live. You can hit call now, put you straight through. You can go to our website, nadra2022.com. It's on there. You can go to our Facebook page. You can find the phone number and all the information there. Basically, what you want to do is call in and ask to speak to your representative. Once you get your representative's office on the phone, you want to ask to speak to the transportation aide for that representative. Be cordial. Be very nice. These people are not the enemy. These are the ones that are going to be able to help us. So be very cordial. Be very nice. But let them know that we have a severe safe parking shortage out here. At any given time, there are 1 million trucks a day on the road. Right now, there's only approximately 550,000 safe parking spaces. That's half of what we need out here. Currently, there is a bill that is on the table. It's been on the table since March of 2021. It's HR 2781, sorry. Written by Mike Boast. He's a representative out of Illinois, I believe. Now, this is a 9-page bill designating $755 million between 2022 and 2026 to be utilized for safe truck parking and only safe truck parking. What we want is for every truck driver to speak up. Anybody who's got a grievance against where you're parking, the unsafe areas, call your representatives today, tomorrow, even carry on into January 6th if you can't get through. Speak to the transportation aide of your representative and let them know that we support HR 2187. Now, if you're supporting HR 2187, let them know that even if they don't pass 2187, we want a exact or very similar bill to go through with no additional additives. No pork fat, no additionals. We need that out here to provide safe parking for truckers. Now, why we haven't got it yet, we won't get into. That's a negative aspect, and we're not going to approach that right now. But we know that it hasn't been accomplished in the last 50 to 80 years, knowing that trucking is increasing. So we need to do something now. This is your voice being heard, your representative that has to write what you're saying down. These are notes to be able to take to your representative, and that representative is to take to the House to push to get things passed. We need every vote, every phone call, everything that you can do. And if you can't get through to your representative, ask for an email address. They will give you an email address on where to send it. Send an email. Be very cordial. Be very polite. These people are not our enemies. These are our aides to our representatives that are going to be taking your phone calls. These are not the enemy. These are the people that are going to be able to help. So be kind, be courteous, be cordial, be respectful in your letters, but make your point and let them know that this is where you stand.
And I know that I've had some comments from people. They're like, oh, are you guys only wanting truck drivers to call? Absolutely not. This affects everybody. So, I mean, even if you have a family member that's a trucker, or you're just a concerned citizen and you've seen, trucks parked along the ramps or parked on the shoulders or parked in your neighborhoods because there's not enough safe parking. This affects not only truckers, but, all the American citizens out here. If we don't have safe parking, I mean, you and I both know, and I know Tom knows, we've heard the horror stories of truck drivers, that have lost their lives because they've had to park in unsafe areas. And so this is a seriously important issue. We have to provide enough safe parking for our truck drivers and able to do their job safely.
Well, we've heard it. We heard in the previous show. I was listening in a little bit. I have to agree with the host. It's time that we start bringing positivity and unity back to trucking. It's time to reinforce trucking. Everything in the country runs off the back of the truck drivers. Believe it or not, the warehouses are affected by the trucking industry. Manufacturers are affected by the trucking industry. If the trucking industry is hurting, it's hurting everybody. These small places where trucks are pulling into, you don't want them there. Be nice. These guys and men and women out here in the trucks don't want to be in your neighborhoods, but it's a safe place. If you got a street lamp and they feel safe parking there, understand that's why they're there. It's not to upset you. It's not to, pull your strings. It's because they feel safe in that area. Help us get better truck parking. Help us get safe truck parking. And we won't be in those areas. We'll be in a safe area where we're not harming you, we're not bothering you, and we feel safe.
Absolutely.
So everybody, this goes to everybody out there that's listening. It shouldn't be just the truck drivers or the truckers' families that are fighting for this. This should be our community in North America. That means Canada, United States, Mexico. Everybody should be calling right now saying, listen, we need this bill passed.
And we want to remind everybody, too, because I know that I kind of broke up on the last segment, that you can call very easily by downloading the tncradio.live app. Download the app. You can listen to your favorite shows, listen to our show, Clutch Time Sports, The Morning Grind. But the other thing is, if you hit the call button at the bottom, it's going to come up with two buttons. And if you click the one that has a capital, that's going to take you right there to your transportation office that you can talk to those aides. And as Matt's been saying, please be respectful. That is the most important thing. With the NADRA, we do promote positivity, unity, and by all means, be respectful to these people, because these are the ones that are going to help us hopefully make a real difference in the trucking industry.
Well, what we need to realize is, a lot of people have, over the last few months, a lot of people have compared us to WIDA. I don't take offense to that. I refuse to, because I know as a co-founder, Charles knows as a co-founder, Jason knows as a co-founder, the only way we're going to bring complete unity is to set up meetings and talk with OOIDA, work with them, work with CDL Drivers Unlimited, work with the Tennessee Truckers Association, work with the Women in Trucking. We need every one of these associations to get in touch with us, start talking amongst all of us need to start pulling together. We are a community that is under attack by over-regulation, overtaxed, you name it, we are gone after on a regular basis. We are not going to accomplish anything as association going head-to-head with another association. We need every trucking association that supports the North American trucker to stand united. That includes the Hispanic trucking associations. We need every one of them to look at the positive, look at the unity, and start banding together. What we have for membership should not be the reason we butt heads. Financial should not be the reason we butt heads. We are all in this for the North American truck driver to not just better the trucking community, but to better our country as a whole. This is far past anything we thought trucking would bring us to. And we're at a point now that if we don't find a way to unify, come together, see the positive, and stop attacking one another, stop going after one another, and find common ground that we can all stand on together and say we've had enough and we need change made, we're going to be in a worse situation by the end of this year than we've ever seen trucking in the history of trucking.
Oh, that is so true. It's so true. We're going to take another quick break here. We've been talking with Matt, one of the founders with the NADRA. I do want to remind you, if you'd like more information on the NADRA, please be sure to visit them on Facebook. You can also visit their website at the NADRA2022.com. We'll be back in just a few minutes. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums.
As a professional driver, the engineers at Front Lane know that you remain focused on the road regardless of weather and traffic conditions. That's not always true of the drivers behind you. Every 9 minutes, another commercial vehicle is rear-ended by a driver failing to control their speed. And guess who gets the blame? When you have to brake quickly, Tailbone illuminates a series of bright LED lights that allow the driver behind you to react up to 50% faster. Using amazing accelerometer technology and a battery that will last for years, Tailbone meets the standards set by the NHTSA and the FMCSA. Learn more by visiting www.frontlane.com/tailbone. That's www.frontlane.com/tailbone. Approved in all 50 states, it's Tailbone by Front Lane.
This blog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 4 things to consider before becoming a hazmat tanker driver. The demand for truck drivers is higher than ever. There are many different types of truck driving jobs. Whether you're a new driver or if you already have a couple of years' experience, it's never a bad idea to get new skills and endorsements. Hazmat tanker jobs are one of the many truck driving jobs. If you're considering becoming a hazmat tanker truck driver, here's some things you should know. What is a hazmat tanker? Hazmat truck drivers haul, deliver, and dispose of hazardous materials. Hazardous material can include things like gases, explosives, corrosive chemicals, poisons, and radioactive materials. Hazmat tanker drivers are not limited to hauling only hazardous material. They can also drive a non-hazardous tanker. Have the right requirements. Becoming a certified hazmat tanker driver will require you to add specific endorsements to your already existing CDL. You'll have to undergo training that is specifically designed for transporting and handling hazardous materials. After obtaining your CDL, you'll have to go through a background check and complete the application requirements. The application requires ID proof of being at least 21 years old, proof of citizenship or legal residence, a medical exam and eye exam. You must pass the hazmat knowledge test too. It's more stressful. Regardless of what you're hauling, being a truck driver is a stressful job. Safety is a top priority for truck drivers, especially for hazmat tanker drivers. Hauling hazardous material means that accidents or spills are much more severe. Hazmat tanker drivers are under much more stress and caution than drivers that haul non-hazardous material. Drivers need to be extra careful and need to plan their routes before driving. It requires a lot of skill. Truck driving is a difficult career and it's not for everyone. Being a truck driver already requires a lot of skill. For hazmat tanker drivers, there are specific skills that you'll need in order to be successful. Aside from the technical skills, hazmat tankers should also have personal skills. Some personal skills include being punctual, detail-oriented, and patient. These skills will make you a better driver in the long run. You make more money. Hazmat tanker drivers make more money on average. This is because more experience and skills required to haul hazardous loads. According to Salary.com, The average salary for a hazmat tanker driver in the United States is just over $63,000 a year, but the average salary range falls between $55,000 and $72,000 a year. Salary varies from education, certification, experiences, and additional skills. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Catch Landline Now every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, along with an encore presentation weekdays at noon, right here on tncradio.live.
Don't forget, you can hear all of our TNC Radio primetime shows again on our podcasts. Just go to tncradio.live/podcasts or search for tncradio.live wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome back. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums, and I'm your host, Angie. Just want to make a couple of quick announcements before we get back into our show. Don't forget, tomorrow night you can listen to Highway Fever with Charles Claiborne. He is one of our founders at the NADRA. Starts at 8 p.m. Central, 7 Central. And don't forget to stay tuned after this show. We've got Clutch Time Sports with Anderson and Banker. And so if you're a sports fan, highly recommend you stick around for that show. Matt, we were talking a little bit before we took the break, and we were talking about how important it is to unite all the trucking industry so that we can try to form one voice to start getting some things accomplished in Washington. And I think that's one of the things we see a lot is so many truckers are so negative because they haven't seen change and they haven't seen anything really happen. Can you speak about that?
Okay, well, we have, it's just like the world. A lot of people don't understand that there's a lot of words in the world that are division. The older you get, the more you start to understand that. Right, left, Republican, Democrat. A lot of these things are designed to separate, divide, group people. Now, we got the same issue with trucking. The trucking issue is no different. What we have are different associations. They're all around the U.S., Canada, Mexico. They're everywhere. And each one is fighting the same fight, different manner. What they're doing is kind of battling against one another instead of standing together. NADRA, the reason we built it is to bring unity and positivity. Now, what's the most positive thing that you can do to unite the entire trucking industry? Well, number one is to put away the hate for one organization or another and start bringing them together. Because once you eliminate the separation in those groups, well, now the truck drivers that are part of those groups are starting to realize, well, there is no separation. We are the brothers and sisters out here. They're starting to see the associations come together, work together, to accomplish a common goal. If we can do that, and we can literally show those who are following our the NADRA members, the members of OOIDA, the members of the Women in Trucking, the members in the Tennessee Trucking Association, the members in CDL Drivers Unlimited, we can show them that there's no difference in any of the associations. Now, there will be different programs, but we're all fighting for the same thing. And all those individuals are sitting down at a table once or twice a year, and we're saying, okay, listen, we know that the ATA is against us. We know that, we're representing the little guys, the ones that have not being heard. Well, to properly represent them means that we need to come together so that we can speak on their behalf, so we can fight on their behalf. And we're going to have to stand against a organization that's been around 100 years with the ATA, DOT, FMCSA. But we have a very big battle against us to climb out of the hole that we are now kind of in. The only way to do that is unity and positivity. You don't fight dark with dark. You don't fight negativity with negativity. You use positive. and positive being the light. It will shine one candle. One candle can light an entire room. Can you imagine 3.5 million candles?
Absolutely.
The objective is very reasonable to reach to. It's a state of mind. It's putting away the differences, the separation, the division, everything that's been forced on us for years over years over years. And it's a simple mind choice to say we have to stand together. And that goes interior as well as exterior. If we start fixing unity, you're going to see the truck stops start cleaning up. You're going to start seeing a better class of truck driver out here. You're going to see truck drivers protecting one another again. You're going to see them helping one another again. Unity goes a lot farther than just the battles ahead. It also fixes the interior as much as the exterior.
Absolutely. I want to remind everyone before we get ready to close the show that if you would like more information about the NADRA or how you can join and become a member, you can visit them on Facebook, or you can also go to the website. It's ra2022.com. And I did also want to mention that we do have a booth at MATS, which is the Mid-America Truck Show, which is in Louisville, Kentucky in March. So if you're wanting more information and you're going to be at the truck show, be sure to look for our booth. And Matt, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you. Being here on TNCradio.live is always a pleasure. Being on with you, Taillights with the Baums, being on Charles Claiborne's show, it has been an absolute honor for me. I just want to make a difference. I'm hoping I'm reaching at least 1 or 2 years tonight.
Absolutely. Don't forget, you can find Larry and I on Facebook at Married the Number 2 The Road. And be sure to stick around because we've got Clutch Time Sports with Anderson and Baker. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday with Taillights with the Baums. Be safe, everyone.